All right, let's get started here, folks. Let me know, first of all, if all the staff can hear me. Everybody we have on, welcome, welcome. Glad to see you. All good? So
Good.
is my PowerPoint up and running?
It sure is. We can see it.
All right,
We
well,
were
thanks.
seeing,
Yep, I just closed the poll, so go ahead and get your PowerPoint up there, Reed.
It's up.
are you guys
Looking
seeing
good?
it?
I think we need to turn the screen share back on.
Yeah, I think you needed to screen share. There you
There
go.
you go.
There you go. Now we're talking.
Perfect. All right, we got
All
quite
right,
a few new attendees on with us, so we're ready to roll.
good. So we have here our final presentation for the year. We do this often enough, but this is the latest and greatest on how to get real results for you and your clients. It's with me, Reed Davis, Dr. Al Weinstein. We have Jennifer Maleka, Amanda Montalvo, and Brendan Vermeer, some top people all participating to help you guys get the most out of the presentation. And this is for you if you're a health coach or anyone who's committed to greater health and wellness for yourself and those you serve, nutritionist or dietitian or chiropractor or therapist of any kind. And if you have a strong desire to help others, as most of us do, and are seeking guidance and wisdom, as we all are or should be, I want you to know that by the end of this presentation, you'll know how to go from struggling to grow your business and retain clients to feeling amazing, doing your best work, helping clients to feel and perform at their best. And that is really what it's all about. And if you're unable to see deeper issues without access and training in functional lab work, most people know that's what we specialize in, and you are committed to healing, but need a system you can feel confident in. So having access to the functional training and lab work is something outside of you don't have. But inside, it's really that feeling of confidence that we are all looking for. And of course, philosophically, you don't want to be just another step in your client's cycle of trial and error, something we hope to define for you. And again, by the end of this webinar, you will know how you can grow your business and be the last health professional your clients need to see, because you've actually solved their problems. Now, people come, and by the way, Dr. Al, Jen, Amanda, Brendan, anyone wants to jump in at any time here, you can. Usually I get rolling and I'm pretty hard to slow down, but people are coming to us, health coaches and everyone else, with all kinds of problems. I'm not going to read through this litany here, but I want you to know that they all have something in common. And it's clients who have them are caught in a cycle of trial and error. And that's pretty frustrating. And the cycle generally begins with standard medicine, which is obviously not going to meet their needs. Doctors offer drugs to relieve symptoms or to bring test results in range, but that's not good enough. Clients are often told everything looks normal. And you or someone you know, I guarantee, has been told that your blood work looks normal. But I want you to know that even abnormal lab values aren't the problem. Now, that's a paradigm shift. They're not the problem. They're only a result of the real problem. So if you're treating symptoms or treating the lab values, that will keep your clients stuck in the cycle of trial and error.
Yep. And I just want to jump in here, Reed, real quick, and just remind everybody for showing up today that we do have a special offer. So we promised that we would be giving everybody a 3-step guide to getting real results. And so we're going to teach you guys how to get those real results today and have like a handout for you that you can download a little bit later in the presentation that's going to go over this whole cycle of trial and error concept that Reed's about to go over too.
Fantastic, Jen. Thank you for jumping in there with the housekeeping tips. You're the best at that. And congratulations too on those professional photographs I saw you on the social media the other day. Good job.
Thanks.
And got her professional photos done again, and they look great. Now back to this, what's going on with clients, and it's really frustrating for them. Again, they've been to the doctor, they've been told you're normal, or been offered drugs, mostly for the symptoms, and so they don't want that. Our clients don't want drugs and surgery, so they go and they try the latest, greatest fad, diet, exercise, whatever it might be. And it might help a little. They certainly are spending their money, and certainly there are therapists out there making a lot of money on that. But unfortunately, clients get caught up in this, going from one to the next. And when that one doesn't work, or if it only works a little bit, then they go to the next one. And so usually people are seeing 4, 5, 6, 10 people, who knows? Obviously not filling the needs, right? They're not really getting their needs met.
Yeah,
and so
I want to say something. I want to jump in on that slide, if you don't mind, before you go to your cycle. Yeah, I wanted to just say that you emphasized that people are told they're normal, but a lot of people now are not told they're normal. And really, there's a lot of tests that come back abnormal, but no one really knows what to do with those tests. So they have a tendency, and a lot of people, even on this call that are in the industry we're in, they see an abnormal lab test, and the first thought is, let's treat the lab test. But as Reed pointed out, the lab test can be a symptom of really what the problem is. And that's an important differentiator here. So I just want everyone to really keep that in the back of their mind.
Absolutely. And so here comes you 20 years ago. If you were me 20 years ago, this would be you. You might not be on the Beast, which is here in Sturgis, South Dakota, but you were doing something. And at least I want to say 20 years ago, I was sitting in your shoes, and people were coming to me on a cyclotron. I didn't call it back then. I just knew that they had seen 5 or 8 practitioners already, and that frustrated me as much as them. And I decided I would be the last person patients needed to see. Now, they were patients of a clinic I worked in. That's why I'm using the word patients. But so they became my clients. Now, one of the beauties of back then is I got to work with some real true pioneers, heroes, and leaders in alternative medicine. Some of them were even considered pretty much quacks back then. But 20 years later, they're considered the pioneers and the founders and the heroes of the functional medicine movement. So I got to work with great gurus, if you want, or guides. And then on top of that, I performed my own tests. I did over 10,000 tests on mostly women, but they ended up bringing me their husbands and kids. And I made my own observations. And I found out, for myself, kind of where these alternative heroes were going right and where it needed improvement. I made my own observations about who got better and who didn't. And so I developed FDN and the Dress for Health Success protocols. And now me and the crew, it's been 10 years we've been teaching. We teach professionals how to fill that needs gap and end the cyclotron error for themselves and for their clients. And it kind of looks like this: how to fill the needs gap. Well, people are coming off of these things. Number 1, don't chase symptoms or the labs. Number 2, the root cause may never be known. That's a paradigm you are going to have to grab here in just a minute. And 3, sort out metabolic chaos. And guess what? That's what ends the cyclotron error. And both your needs will be met. Your clients' needs, of course, as they get healthier, and as they refer a lot of people to you, your business growth needs get met as well, and your income needs and these kind of things. This is a pretty major slide right here. You can take notes if you want, or we'll give you a copy of the presentation later.
Yeah. I want to say one thing here, because I think this is a critically important slide, like you just said. But one of the things that I really want people to notice, here we are, a lab course. Lots of people come to us for labs because they want to run labs. And certainly that's the advantage of being in the program. But it's really not just running labs. It's really what to do with the labs. So when you have someone says, don't chase symptoms or labs, that's a lab program, you really want to listen to what this is all about, because it almost sounds like, wait a second, why would someone not tell me not to chase labs when they run labs? And I think that's really something you really have to sink your teeth into, because the 3 things that this slide talks about are going to make a dramatic change in everything you do from today forward.
Well, thanks for building up the suspense, Dr. L.
That's what I'm here for.
So can health coaches really fill the needs gap with people with these problems. These look like diagnoses, medical conditions, and things like that. I'm going to tell you that these same list of symptoms or problems have something else in common, and that is that they are the result of hidden stressors and malfunction, simply what we call metabolic chaos these days. So this is really critical. And so we're going to define that for you. What is metabolic chaos? It's a state of health, if you want, but a state where hidden stressors have caused malfunction, but the symptoms appear so far downstream, it's impossible to predict the root cause. And so, you know, I used that expression for 20 years, find the root cause, but I'm sort of at a point now where it doesn't really matter if you ever know the exact root, and I'll explain more in a minute. But what predicting the root cause is exactly what people do. They come in with a traditionally reliable cluster of symptoms, and they treat on that. Well, a clue to metabolic chaos is when intervention, your therapy, when that's based on a traditionally reliable cluster of symptoms, or even abnormal test results, only gets you marginal response. In other words, your client doesn't get better. And so that's when you know it's metabolic chaos. So it's the contributors to metabolic chaos that are at cause. Metabolic chaos is the effect. That's what happens until, you know, after 10 practitioners and 10 years of suffering, it's metabolic chaos itself that becomes the single most significant condition.
Can I say something? Yeah, go ahead. Finish what you were saying.
I just put that picture up there to indicate that's just in one cell. And so imagine you have trillions of cells or different types of cells. There's a lot going on. There's infinite metabolic or opportunity for metabolic chaos.
Yeah, what I was going to say is in that first paragraph, it says it's impossible to predict the root cause. What it doesn't say here, which is what most health practitioners do, is they do predict what they think is the root cause. And that's really where the problem is. In other words, someone comes into you with thyroid symptoms. They may even have an abnormal thyroid test of some type. And you're going to think, well, it sounds like a thyroid problem. I'll treat their thyroid. And so the sentence says it's impossible to predict. But what it doesn't say is that you will predict it, even though most cases you will be wrong. Even if the symptoms say it, and even if a lab test says it, your decision in treatment will ultimately be wrong because you think you could predict it, but you really can't. That's really why it's chaos.
I love that. And I also, you know, I love to say here too that it's kind of like the old saying, like what came first, the chicken or the egg? Like we don't really know what came first, if it was liver congestion or food sensitivities or the thyroid thing. Like they all interplay. And when I heard this concept, Reed, when you started talking about this, it was like the light bulb went on in my head. It was mind blowing to think that, well, yeah, it's just all chaos and we can't be chasing, you know, the symptoms or treating the test results or whatever it was. And that's why when I was chasing calories and exercise, like it wasn't working because there was more going on underneath the hood that I just couldn't see. There was a lot of metabolic chaos happening with my clients.
Totally.
And this will be very, very emancipating for you that are paying attention here. Here's some physiological aspects of metabolic chaos. Like Dr. Al just said, someone goes in with thyroid symptoms. We won't list them, but you know what they are. And that's part of the endocrine system. Now, the endocrine system will become dysfunctional due to metabolic chaos in the body somewhere else, and it will also contribute to further metabolic chaos. It just, after time, gets that way. And that's why the arrows are pointed on both ends. So we have metabolic chaos here in the body in the middle. Now, because of weak links in metabolism, and everyone, there's millions of opportunities for that, and everyone has different weak links. Well, in that one person, it could end up being nerve cell health, nerve tissue, neural tissue, nerve cells. And guess what they end up with? Brain fog, cloudy thinking, or their sleep is bad, or they have other issues. Now, again, if they only treat the symptoms, this tends to degenerate. The same person has other weak links, and they end up with carb metabolism issues and glucose homeostasis problem. There was blood sugar stability. And guess what? They eat well. this is a person who can't figure out why they can't control their blood sugar and their A1C is high or whatever. And it's because of weak links in metabolism and metabolic chaos. So there's almost no way to treat that paper. But again, it degenerates further and end up with fat and protein metabolism problems because of service integrity and whatever it might be. Now, this person was eating well, but let's take one more example of someone who's not eating well. And that might be one of the initiators, one of the major contributors to metabolic chaos. They screw up carb metabolism for themselves. And again, really, depending on one's weak links, or what I'm now calling vital voids in metabolism, because we tend to be pretty vitalistic. You know, there's intelligence in your cells. And so there can be voids there just on an individual basis. Well, that person can end up with fat and protein metabolism problems, etc. But in them, because of different vital voids or weak links, it becomes an immune regulation problem. And oh, by the way, that affects and is affected by endocrine dysfunction and stressors. So guess what? They could show up in your office with the exact same symptoms as the first person for absolutely completely different reasons, and you're not going to figure out the root cause anytime soon. And oh, by the way, they end up, unlike the other person, but with additional dysfunction, musculoskeletal health, connective tissue turnover problems. In other words, they got aches and pains all over their body, and no one can figure out why.
And I think Jen said it best. You don't know which came first, the chicken or the egg. And if you just go by the symptom or the lab test, you're going to treat their thyroid and miss everything else that you went over. I think Jen nailed it right on its head.
My favorite way of explaining it.
Weren't you there, Al, when the chicken first laid the egg? You're pretty.
I was there when the two chickens were. No, I'm kidding.
So this is a summary slide just to go over it again. Hidden stress and imbalances, if not soon resolved, cascade into other areas of the body. Metabolic chaos ensues, causing serious dysfunction in some people, leading to disease and symptoms. Now, the real problem is the metabolic chaos, and weak link dependent or vital void dependent, and based on other features of metabolic individuality, it leads to disease and symptoms, which is how the problem appears or shows up. So how it appears or shows up is the last thing to occur. And we obviously talk a lot about going upstream and looking at the different tributaries, different types of stressors, which is why that picture's there. So here's the emancipating paradigm. This is a set you free. Slide 14, remember this. We have one diagnosis. Now, by the way, this is not a medical diagnosis. We're not licensed to provide those. And we never, ever, ever do. We just call it metabolic chaos. The symptoms don't matter. You know that. But even the root cause may never be known, and it's okay. It could be undetectable. There's not enough labs. And there certainly isn't one lab. There's no little device like they have on Star Trek, my favorite of all time series. There's no little beeper thing that Dr. McCoy uses to go around your body. That doesn't exist. We're 200 years away from that. So you may never know what it was. It could be really far removed from what you predict or even what you measure, but that doesn't matter. And here's the deal. You can have a positive effect upon it when you know what steps to take. So I truly believe that if you could keep this in mind, it is almost guru-like. It is almost like just be disciplined. Do not get trapped. Now, Brendan, who's on, he's one of our top mentors, and he deals with people every day who are trying to trick him into, but my symptoms, you know, and he says, hey, I don't know what's causing those symptoms, the root cause, but I know we can have an effect upon it if you just follow these steps. Isn't that right, Brendan?
Absolutely. Every time.
Yeah, so I'm not trying to put you on the spot. I'm just saying this is an emancipating, set you free paradigm, because it means you can help everyone.
Yeah, I was going to say also that when everyone says the same thing and everyone's modus operandi is we're going to get to the root cause, you could pretty well bet your life that's never going to happen. It's like someone saying, I can get you on page 1 Google. There's only 10 slots and 1,000 different companies are telling you they could do that for you. It is said so often and so frequently, it has no meaning because no one could really get to the root cause because it ultimately doesn't matter. And the person who recognizes that is going to be the person that is able to end the cycle of trial and error because they recognize that whole concept doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, so I love the picture of Buddha here with the roots around his face. You know, it's because you want that kind of discipline in a sense, or just understanding of how things really are in the universe, and just take the right steps. So here's the steps that, again, over a 20-year period, we nailed it down to this. One is assess the underlying conditions and contributors to metabolic chaos. Very comprehensive onboarding, including careful history taking, a lab investigation. These are things that my guides had me do many, many years ago. And of course, now I'm considered an expert in it and can guide you. And two is, how do you treat it all? Well, you customize a dress for health success program, individualized holistic behavior protocols, which we're going to go over with you briefly, but we'll tell you about. And then three, once the program's designed, you have to run it. And that's where the health coaching process comes in. And it's actually pretty simple. We figure out what needs fixing and help fix it. Pretty much as simple as that. So let's go over the 3 steps. First, you run the functional lab assessments, identify the malfunctions, and write this down: healing opportunities. It's not a medical diagnosing and treatment of a particular thing. It's just looking for what needs fixing, and especially within these 6 areas. Even the first 4 are gonna, if you can resolve the issues there, you'll really help with almost every chronic stress-related condition there is. Hidden internal stressors and dysfunctions, which highly correlate with most common health complaints. And it's just a small handful of labs. One is this called the HPA hormone stress profile. This assesses hypothalamus pituitary adrenal axis dysfunction, cortisol awakening response, adrenal dysregulation, circadian rhythm issues, sex hormone imbalances, and immune system problems. Measures these hormones here and provides a snapshot of overall vital reserve. We keep going back to vitality. That's the intelligence in every cell that if you're still breathing, you've got some reserve. So it gives us a little snapshot of that. Identifies multiple healing opportunities, guides your therapy, points to areas for deeper investigation, and it's a baseline to monitor changes. This is a way of documenting metabolic chaos. I have a question for you. If you do find hormone imbalances and circadian rhythm problems and all these things, are those the problem, or are they the result of the problem?
Could I answer that?
Yeah, but that's cheating.
Okay, forget it.
So you can answer it here, maybe. So the metabolic, now that's a saliva test, by the way, and we also have a dried urine test for those that can't do the saliva. Now the metabolic assessment profile is a urine test, assesses maldigestion, dysbiosis, oxidative stress, free radical damage, poor detoxification, hepatic and biliary circulation issues. That means liver and gallbladder. Circulation problems using these measurements, and identifies multiple healing opportunities, provides a direct measurement of liver congestion, which is remarkable, and many, many, many more deeper insights. Again, it documents metabolic chaos. But Dr. Al, is maldigestion and poor detoxification the problem, or is that the result of the problem?
I would say it's the result of the problem. I would say, I would go, would I be right?
Yeah. So let me just continue here.
Thank God.
So now there's another test, which is a urine test, requires a lactulose and mannitol challenge. This is just a tried and true way of assessing mucosal barrier function, nutrient assimilation, antigen penetration, villi integrity, hyperpermeability, also known as leaky gut, and dysbiosis. We all know a healthy mucosal barrier protects very sensitive inside of our bodies from the toxic world outside, and this identifies a supercritical healing opportunity, in fact, multiples. But is leaky gut the problem, or is that the result of the problem? if you're seeing a pattern here, then you're listening and you're on it. These are really the results of the problem. So if you just ran one test, so someone comes in with symptoms of leaky gut, and your traditionally reliable cluster of symptoms. Oh, it sounds like leaky gut. I'll run a leaky gut test. Yep, I found your problem. It's leaky. And so you go to work on leaky gut, and that client does everything you say, and guess what? They only get marginal results, even if they had leaky gut. And the reason is you really haven't done your homework. You really haven't identified the underlying factors and why they got it. So same thing with the GI pathogen screening. This is a stool test, not as much fun to collect as some of the other bodily fluids, but it assesses bacterial, parasitic, fungal overgrowth, infestation, pathology, dysbiosis. All of these things here are just little factors within the test. And it obviously identifies pathogens and biofilms that interfere with healthy function and will prevent healing. But are bugs the problem or the result of the problem? I think you're getting the point. And then last but not least, usually we use blood for oral intolerance testing. We prefer the mediate release test as a basic initial screening to determine which foods are reactive in an individual. Now we can spend, and we do spend, hours teaching you how to deal with food, identify these reactivities, all the physiology, anatomy, biochemistry involved, such as what's going on in the cells, what you see pictured here. We test up to 170 foods and identify and eliminate dietary items that are contributing to metabolic chaos. And so kind of wrapping it up, those step one was to run the labs and do your intake, which includes history and some other things. And we identify those healing opportunities. Now, what's coming up and next, another part of what we do is apply wellness principles. But let's take a look at this for a minute. Here's what we've identified with 5 simple labs that people can do if they really want to find out what's wrong with them and fix it. If they really want to once and for all permanently end the cycle of trial and error, you've got to realize these things. Here's all the things we've identified as healing opportunities. We know that in the picture, if you look, you see symptoms are on the top. Even the lab values are at the top now. It's the chronic stress-related dysfunctions that have to be fixed. But what are you going to do? Are you going to treat them sort of one at a time? Here's the HPA axis dysfunction. Or here's the hormone imbalances. Oh, here's the pro-oxidant versus antioxidant imbalances. Here's your sluggish liver. Oh, down here, you can just treat any of these things individually and you'll always be wrong. Or you might be only partially right. Now, what happens and why do we call, what have we identified? That it's just metabolic chaos. And the real solution is actually to treat it all at once. Every single cell, tissue, organ, and system with a very individualized Dress for Health Success program. Now that stands for diet, rest, exercise, love those bridges, stress reduction, and supplementation, TRESS. And this is a process so effective and so well developed that we were granted a trademark by the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office, and it's exclusive to FDN practitioners. So if you hear someone saying that they can do some lab work and lay out a dress program, they're an FDN. And so it kind of looks like this. Again, I want this to be very uplifting and very, just revealing, but emancipating to you, set you free. Don't worry. If you just follow the program, people will get better. You simply coach up that vital reserve, the intelligence and knowledge in every cell, and everybody's got different levels of vital reserve, but everybody's got some, with the diet, rest, exercise, stress supplement program. It's lab guided, so you know what you're doing, you know what the healing opportunities are. And on the other side, you coach down the contributors to metabolic chaos, known stressors. We identify hidden stressors with the labs. It's any and all contributors to metabolic chaos. And now Jen mentioned this, that you would, for coming today, receive a 3-step guide to real results. And to get it, you're going to have to text 3-step. Use caps, use small case, it doesn't matter. But text 3-step to that phone number. So jot that down, 858-247-0190. And you'll get a remarkable document. Yep.
Yeah, well, I wanted to say one thing here while they're writing that down. I think just to bring everyone up to where we're at, number one, we've already said that you can't go by symptoms and lab tests in order to be able to determine what you're going to do with that client that comes to you. Number two, there's a real good chance you're never going to know the root cause. And it doesn't matter because all of the problems that are going on, as Reed showed with all those arrows underneath that, the tip of the iceberg there, all those things and the lab results are really showing you they're contributors to metabolic chaos. So at this point, you have to be saying to yourself, wait a second, you mean it's not an adrenal problem? No, it's not a leaky gut problem? No, it's none of those things individually. It's all those things collectively, which is the realization you need to come to is there's only one thing I could possibly treat here, and that is metabolic chaos, because otherwise you're going to do exactly what we said in the beginning. You're going to predict based on their symptoms and even their lab test to treat the wrong thing. The second piece is in step 2, if you go to the next slide, where you see the DRESS program, realize everyone says, oh, eat well, get plenty of rest, make sure you reduce your stress, exercise, and take supplements. But the reason that doesn't work for most people is because it's not individualized. In order to get the trademark on this program, the system is set up that when you know how to deal with metabolic chaos and you really understand, then you could recommend a DRESS for that individual. No, it's not diet, it's diet for that individual. No, it's not exercise, it's exercise for that individual. That's a key ingredient, because realize that if, it's kind of like at one time, people used to use leeches to fix people, or they used to, drain blood out of their body. But the realization is that that killed more people than it helped. And you're seeing.
You guys don't do that anymore?
I do some of it. We do some of it, but not often. It's hard to get paid for that. But the point I'm making is realize the knowledge that you're gaining now is a whole new paradigm of what happens when a client comes to see you. You can't think from this day forward, you can't think the way you've been thinking because you've been treating patients and it's sort of like hit and miss. Well, maybe I'll pick the right symptom and maybe the right test, and maybe I'll recommend the right supplement. That doesn't work because they stay in the cycle of trial and error.
So I just want to jump in here too. And, I think that this is a great part for us to kind of expand on this and have Brendan and Amanda chime in here, because I know that when, looking at the principles of health that you have up here on the screen, so diet, rest, exercise, stress reduction, I think by now all of us know that these are important key aspects to health. And most health coaches or health practitioners are touching on this in some kind of way, but what they're missing is some of the information that we get from some of the lab testing to guide the protocols, to get specific and to individualize the recommendations that we have for clients. So I know for myself, like I was a personal trainer and I was working with clients, having them count calories, and they were exercising, and I was having them try different diet after different diet, and a lot of them weren't getting results. And I was struggling too in getting my results. And it wasn't until I went through the FDN course and I did the lab testing on myself where I was able to see the level of adrenal dysfunction that I had, the congested liver scenario, the gut bugs that were going on there were all preventing me from getting the results that I wanted. And so there I was able to then individualize my protocol for my diet, for the supplements that I needed, for the type of exercise I needed to do, and do the same thing for my clients to actually drive results, because you can just see more pieces of the picture. So, Brendan, I'll ask you first on here, and curious from your insights too, and kind of your background, like how is FDN different and how has it helped you get results for your clients? Because I think, like I said, we all know what these general principles are. So what's the difference in how FDN's applying them versus somebody who hasn't gone through like the FDN course, you know?
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. Well, and, my background too was as a trainer nutritionist, and I started my career when I was 19, and fortunately I got exposure to, the lab testing paradigm through the company I worked for, which has a very kind of holistic lifestyle vibe, anyways. But I just very quickly, all the trainers, they were, ketogenic or carb cycling or, high intensity, all these just different theories, kind of bro science. I am a bro, so I'm allowed to make fun of other bros and bro science, kind of death to bro
Yeah.
science with real science. Like, let's use real science. And that's the
Yeah.
thing. To me, it's like, why on earth are why are we guessing around of why? Oh, well, I think this person needs to carb cycle, or no, this person needs to do keto or whatever. And it's like, you don't know anything about their physiology. You have no objective data about how their cells are operating at a biochemical level. So how on earth could you possibly recommend that and know it's going to work well for them? You recommend a ketogenic diet to somebody that has an H. pylori infection. How are they going to digest fat? You put somebody on carb cycling when they have all these glucose and adrenal issues. They're not going to be able to handle that. So, this is what it's all about, is collecting that objective data, correlating it with subjective symptomology. And this is how we monitor. This is how we know our protocols are working. And it's always easy to start somebody, but the magic is then you retest and then you course correct. And over time, you refine the program more and more before, after a while, you find that perfect path in that perfect place that you can just maintain. And it takes a lot of time to get there, but we are using data to guide that process, whereas the rest of the industry is just like pulling it out of space, biohacking. Like a real biohacker collects data, objective data, and that's what we do. So I love it.
Yeah. And what about you, Amanda? Because I know you have a little bit of a different background than Brendan and I from the fitness side of things. Like, what was life-changing for you about it, or how did it change the way that you were working with clients?
Yeah, so I'm a registered dietitian, and before FDN, I was thinking about going back to school, getting my PhD or something, because I was like, I need to be able to work deeper with clients, right? Like you try making different nutrition and lifestyle changes, but you just kind of always come up against a wall where you're kind of like, okay, well, now what do we do? Because nothing's working. It's kind of like you're guessing. So this is similar to what you were both saying, is that it allows me to become much more specific. I honestly mostly just work with women, and a lot of them have tried every single diet, and they still think that it has to be something to do with what they're eating, or they have like fatigue, so they try eliminating all these different types of food and trying to find food sensitivities, but they're just never really getting to the root cause of all those issues. So what FDN has allowed me to do is given me access to all different types of lab testing and that foundational knowledge of understanding where all these different issues come from, how all the different systems of the body work together, and how you can test and, unravel these different healing opportunities, as Reed calls them, and work on that with clients. And I think that it's really, some people don't even realize that that's an option. And when they start seeing all these different answers and connecting the dots, it's like just mind-blowing for them, and it's encouraging, and it helps to keep them more compliant and get them working with the right protocols and actually seeing results.
Fantastic. Thank you guys for sharing. And I just wanted, while you were saying that, I was reminded that this program was developed over a long period of time. And again, I don't want to be the hero. You guys, you health coaches out there, and anyone who's helping others, you're the heroes. And I was just like you, and I found my guides and did a lot of homework, and so now there is guidance for you, and this is a big part of it. See down here in the lower right, the supplements. I started off as a certified nutritional therapist, CNT. I was working in a chiropractic office, and basically, filling out symptom surveys and then selling people supplements. And I got a little bit of results. It's exactly what we talked about. Just cluster of symptoms, and then here's your supplements. Well, it didn't work. People would stay on the supplements for a month, maybe two, and then either they got better or they didn't. And if they got better, they quit taking them. And if they didn't get better, they quit taking them. So then I became a personal. So I knew that wasn't enough. Then I became a personal trainer. I started saying, well, I know they need to exercise and all that's everything that you go through when you do that. And then I became a certified metabolic typing advisor. I learned a lot about the diet over here, like actually figuring out the right foods for on an individual basis. And then of course I figured out there still was more. Like sleep is steady sleep. There's all kinds of sleep science in the course that I'd love for you guys to learn. And then stress became actually the biggest area of all. I mean, it's looms really large because I started using the labs to find the hidden stressors. It's the stressors you don't know about that are kicking your butt. So it's really quite a thing, and it treats every cell, every tissue, every organ, every system simultaneously. We can have an effect. And by the way, I also, all those years ago, and just like you can't practice medicine. You can't be a doctor. You don't want to be, but you can't be either. You can't do a medical diagnosis and treatment of a specific thing. You can't treat thyroiditis. But you can use a program that treats thyroiditis by treating every cell, tissue, organ system in the body. That's completely natural. And it's just really remarkable how well it works. All you have to do is follow the program. So step one was identify the healing opportunities. Step two is to apply wellness principles, or at least figure out which ones and where and how to use them. Just like we went over here, coach up vital reserve, coach down metabolic chaos. And by the way, thanks. I see a lot of people on my other screen. I have my email open, and a ton of folks are downloading that program. But don't read it now. Just save it for later. And let's get back to business here. What's step three? So one was identify healing opportunities. Two is design the dress program. Three is help your clients adopt the program. Now, the best way, and what's beautiful about the FDN course, is that you do this on yourself. You adopt it for yourself first. There's an old saying, you have to walk the talk, right? Paul Chek, good buddy of mine, says you can't share it if you don't wear it. So we're all doing this on ourselves. And everyone's different, but most go through three phases of care. Relief phase, where whatever you're suffering from feels a little better. Then the corrective phase, where you make sure it doesn't come back, you actually fix what's wrong. And maintenance phase, well, you're well graduated by that time and taking care of yourself. It's the old theory of feed a man a fish, feed him for a day, but you teach him how to fish. That applies to women too. Then you feed them for a lifetime. And so it's a beautiful thing. We have a coaching method where we start with the client's weakest area, if it's their diet or their sleep, and we get them going. And sometimes that's all it takes is once you get them going and they do feel some relief, they'll follow through with the corrective phase. And you're always there. You answer the questions. You guide their course correction, which invariably is needed. You provide honest feedback and accountability. That's coaching. And it doesn't always just hold their hand. It's hold their hand and spank their bottoms if they need it, whatever it might be. Now, retest, refer out for additional needs. Basically, there's no power boating to health. It's why I have the sailboat there. You have to adjust to the currents and the winds and things like that in each individual person. It's a beautiful process. And so you guys and we all want to help ourselves and we want to help others. And the way I see it is that modern medicine doesn't have the answers for building health. It doesn't exist in that world. They treat symptoms and manage disease. Even functional medicine practitioners, as well-intentioned as they are, and many health coaches have learned lab work, are just treating the symptoms or paper instead of the person. Back to what Dr. Al said, like, oh, look, I found your problems. It's these parasites. It's not the parasites. Those are just a result of the problem. Now, externally, you can't see deeper issues without access and training in functional lab work. You're missing that. And internally, you're committed to healing, but you need a system you can be confident in. This will give you that sense that you can help everyone. And philosophically, you don't want to be just another step your client's psychotrainer. I hope. I don't want to be. I don't want to take their money. I don't want them spending money on me that isn't going to lead them all the way through. So now you can fill the needs gap. Don't chase symptoms or lab values. Root cause may never be known, and sort out metabolic chaos. And that's what ends the cycle of trial and error, and both your needs will be met. As you help people fix their problems, they will be glad to fill your practice up with other people who need problems fixed. And then you can spend a lot less time marketing and all that stuff. So what are you gonna do with your next new client? I recommend you stop losing them because you don't know how to heal them. Use a science-based system, like Brendan said. Run the right labs and interpret them properly. Use properly individualized protocols. Truly resolve metabolic chaos and be the last person your clients need to see. And transform from wherever you're at now, struggling to be successful, to feeling amazing, doing your best work, helping clients to feel and perform their best.
I think that I want to just repeat something I said earlier, because I think this is really important. And that is, if you understand what we covered and you realize that you can't treat symptoms or even the end result of lab tests, those are only guides in the process of metabolic chaos. You may never find the root cause, but you might predict where the problem is, which would be a huge mistake. You really have to say to yourself, now that I know metabolic chaos exists, now that I know even labs are a symptom of metabolic chaos, and the only thing I really have the ability to treat on anyone, regardless, I'm a chiropractor for 30-something years, regardless of what your discipline is, the real question is, can you go on when your next client comes in and says, oh, my joints all hurt, or I have no energy, or I have fibromyalgia, or whatever they come in and they think they have, can you look that person in the eyes and say, oh, let's find the root cause of your problem, when in reality, there's only one problem that anyone that walks in your door has, and that's metabolic chaos. What are you really going to do so that you could wake up in the morning, look in the mirror and say to yourself, I need to know metabolic chaos, otherwise I'm going to do this person or even myself a great injustice.
Right, exactly. So on your journey, I understand, and I'm the same. You want to be the hero. You want people to like you. You want clients to refer other clients to you, and it feels really, really, really good when you do that. But we come up against this cycle of trial and error, and other practitioners who've been telling them, oh, we found the root cause, it's your parasites. Well, we know that isn't the root cause. The parasites are also the result of the problem. And so here's the plan. Join the world's leading health coach training program. That's the Functional Diagnostic Nutrition certification course. Number 2, take the course, finish it, graduate, learn investigative skills, and that ever-present mindset that seeks to unravel metabolic chaos. And when you do this right, you will not get tricked and sucked into chasing, the symptoms. Like your client calls you, says, yesterday I had diarrhea, and like, hey, just follow the program. So you'll learn how to identify the real healing opportunities, what's really wrong, how to apply the wellness principles that are all embodied in the DRESS program, and how to walk clients along the proven path towards health. You need the system, and how to package and price your services so that you make a great living doing what you love. We have a wonderful business module or modules included. So that's the plan. Join the best training program there is, in our opinion. Learn everything we teach and grow your business by getting real results, your client's health and well-being.
So I just want to stop here for a second too, Reed, and just, there's a lot of choices that are out there for health coaching these days. So when FDN started 10 years ago, it was like the first health coaching course of its kind, and it's still unique in that it's the one and only course that's really providing not only training on lab testing, but actually giving health coaches or personal trainers or nutritionists access to order lab testing for their clients. So I know, like Brendan and Amanda, when you guys were looking at your options out there, like what was it about FDN that made you choose FDN? Like what was the biggest resource that you saw available, or the tools, or anything else? Like what was it about FDN that made you guys choose it?
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, I have a lot of different credentials, nutrition, fitness, etc. And I loved all my other training, but certainly there was that need for objective data and being able to interpret that objective data with lab testing. And I was actually going back to school thinking like, do I need to become a medical doctor, a naturopathic doctor, registered dietitian? And certainly I have nothing against dietitians, but I will say I worked with a lot of dietitians that were kind of into the integrative functional space, and they all told me the same thing, which is like, Brendan, if this is what you want to do, you're not going to learn that in dietetic school. Like it's that's not what you're going to learn. And so FDN, I remember my whole thing was, hearing Reed talk about bridging the gap between reacting to disease with drugs and surgery, which is what I call artificial intervention, which yes, there's a time and a place, but that's what healthcare is, versus, you got your frontline personal trainers, nutrition coaches that are just making generic recommendations that are not individualized. So I'm like, well, obviously we need something in the middle. We need the latest, greatest science, the best testing for objective data about this unique person sitting in front of me, and then being able to take that holistic approach to fix everything. So I was just so happy when I signed up, and that was like within the first lesson that Reed talked about. We bridged that gap and we own that bridge, and I was like, I'm home. So here we are.
That's a blast from the past. I'll have to bring that slide back. I know that slide, and
Yeah.
and we still are bridging the gap. We call it filling the gap. We fill the gap, and we do bridge a gap. So what about you, Amanda? And by the way, I love your screen and the little shelf thing. I've never seen that. That's
Oh,
pretty cool.
thanks. I'm just covering up the rest of my messy office. So I think for me, I actually did like 2 phone calls with people before I signed up, because I was like kind of nervous and I was kind of going back and forth. Like Brendan was saying, I was literally looking at naturopathic schools, which was not realistic because my husband's military, so we move all the time. There's none near me. So I knew that wasn't viable, and I was like, okay, I need something where I can do lab testing. Like I knew I wanted that, but my thing was that I really wanted to have continued support, because I think that it's one thing to learn how to interpret the tests and explain them to clients, but it's another when you start getting a bunch of different scenarios that you're like not 100% sure what's going on. And I know with FDN, I knew that I was going to be able to have sessions with mentors and actually go through the labs with them and get feedback. And I mean, you get to send them all the background information on your client, and it's almost like working with someone else, like having like a little team, but you still get that independence. So that was probably like my biggest thing, and something that I still like to this day.
Yeah, and I think that there. Mm-hmm.
I wanted to answer that question you asked also, as someone who's taken the course twice. And the reason I want to answer the question is because as someone who's practiced for 34 years, I got to see a lot of people who already saw practitioners who ran lab tests. In other words, who came to me from other health coaches or functional medicine people, and they were still stuck in the cycle of trial and error, even though they already saw so-called alternative practitioners. And I was running lab tests myself on clients many, many years ago, when some of these labs don't even have the same name they had, Great Smokies, as you guys know, and so forth and so on. And I realized that no one, until I met Reed and FDN, put it all together that gave you a distinct plan of what do you do with all this information. Anyone could run labs, and I saw hundreds, thousands of patients with lab tests on adrenal dysfunction, liver dysfunction, all these things, at those days, Candida was a big one, and on and on and on. And none of these people are getting better because no one ever put it all together in a system that worked. And I was drawn to that system. And that's why I decided to go in that direction.
Yeah. I mean, I remember watching the first webinar that I saw of Reed do with Sean Croxton, which was a long time ago, 2012, I want to say. And it was like the light bulb moment went on for me too. Like I was saying earlier, that I had been chasing, diets and exercise with myself and with my clients, and I had developing health issues that I looked perfect on paper. I went to the doctor, my blood pressure, cholesterol, all the typical markers looked perfect on paper, but I felt like crap on the inside, and nobody could explain it to me. And it wasn't until I went through the course and, like I said earlier, ran some of the tests on myself. And now, just like you mentioned earlier, Reed, is like I get clients coming to work with me that have been from practitioner to practitioner. They're seeing some wonderful naturopathic doctors even, and I'm helping to fill that needs gap for them because of the continued support and care and direction that I provide them and my understanding of the lab testing and guiding the protocols. So, and I considered naturopathic school myself and even asked my naturopathic doctor about it. And she said, why would you do that? She's like, why would you spend all the money and the time when she's like, you can basically do everything that I can do, and you can help people on a deeper level because you have the coaching piece in some cases. So, I mean, we don't diagnose or write prescriptions like naturopathic doctors are, but our level of understanding is kind of right there with them, is basically what she was saying. So, for all of you that are on the line with us and you want to, like Amanda said, she called a couple of FDNs to talk with them, to ask them specific questions. Like, we're, just to remind you guys, holding a second Q&A or another second webinar Q&A session on Thursday at 3 p.m. Pacific time, so 6 p.m. Eastern time. If you guys registered for this webinar, you're automatically registered to attend that on Thursday. And that's where me and Brendan and Reed and Dr. Al, it's basically going to be a live discussion where you guys can come on with us and ask any questions that you want about FDN and the course and the industry, and we're going to give you straight, honest answers about it so that you can make the decision that's best for you. Or if you're already going to jump in today with the course, because we do have a special offer for you, then you can come and attend that session also, and ask us, pick our brains about whatever you want.
Yeah, great. But go to the questions now and just type. Someone wants the 3-step handout number repeated, so
Yep.
put that in there for everybody. And the other question. So look, folks, this is what, if you're going to follow the plan that we recommend and transform yourself and your practice, you can save an awful lot of money if you do it today. You can go to fdntraining.com. You'll click and enter the code. There's a special code, final 1500, and take $1,500 off, and you'll pay like basically the same old price. We have had a price increase. Here's really what it comes down to. Now, I interview every graduate and have for 10 years. So every person ever graduated from the FDN course, close to 3,000 people. Well, 3,000 people have signed up, about 2,000 have graduated. So I've interviewed all those people and asked, how can I make the course better? And how can I help you and things like that? But how do I make the course? So we've redone the course almost every year for 10 years. And the latest version is just the latest and greatest ever. Maybe on Thursday we can answer some of the improvements we've made. But it's really a thing of beauty. Checking against other programs out there that I still don't think come close. We were looking at almost an $8,000 value. We were only charging $59.95 for tuition. You will run labs on yourself and get complete mentoring and work on yourself. I think this alone is worth the price of admission to the whole course, but that's at least a $2,500 value if you were going to work with an FDN. So you're going to work with an FDN on yourself. And you also get the health coaching business module, which I think is priceless because it could easily make you $100,000 a year if you follow the model that we lay out for you, which many people have followed. And so that's a total tuition of only $8,395. We have a sale on right now. It's our end of the year, and we are on a recruiting drive. I'll tell you that, and save $2,400 plus that $1,500 I showed you in the previous slide. So you're going to pay only $59.95. It includes community support and 183 practice documents, including all those intake forms, a legal document, everything you need to operate. You're not going to have to invent or duplicate or invent anything, just duplicate what we have. So again, the course, the new price for the course is $59.95. We're going to offer it at a great savings. But again, if you want to take another $1,500 off, you'll pay only $44.95. So I'm trying to say that you can still get it at the old price, if you will, even though it's a new course. And payment plans are available. You can register by phone. It expires Sunday the 16th, which is this Sunday night. And guess what? If you're the first 10, within the first 10, I'm going to give you another advanced blood chemistry course that we have. It's very advanced blood chemistry work. We do sell it separately. It's almost a $500 value. And so only the first 10 can I give that to. But that's a total savings of $4,397. And it is the last time you'll ever see this price for the course. And, I'm taking this opportunity to urge you and kind of close the deal if possible, because I want more FDNs. My purpose is to help educate as many people as possible how to get well and stay well naturally, so they in turn may educate others. And it's been my mission for 20 years. And this is the coup d'etat, the creme de la creme, the ultimate way for you to get in to the FDN community and join, hundreds and hundreds of other practitioners. Now, today, we're just going to leave it at that, and we're going to come back and revisit. Jen, if you could put that number in there for people, or did you want to repeat it? Or
Yeah, I did type it in there for you guys. So it's 858-247-0190. And then you want to text that number. It's going to be the number 3 and then the word STEP, all in capitals. And I did type that in the chat box. So if you guys are on the chat box, you can see that in there.
Yeah. Okay.
And so Almarie is asking for a copy of the slides. We are going to be posting up the replay recording. So we will post the recordings of the 2 webinars after Thursday. So you guys will get that. All of you that have registered attended the webinar, you guys will get a link to watch the replay as well.
Yeah, I just want to say one thing, and then I'm going to actually jump off because I'm on the East Coast. You guys are all, I think, on the West Coast, but me, right? Am I the only one on the East Coast?
No, I am. No, yeah. Anyway.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so what I was going to say is this is really an opportunity because you are going to become an FDN practitioner in a matter of time, because this is the only way you're ever going to learn about metabolic chaos, have the ability to take those labs and use them. Why not save $1,500 additional? It's like a gift. I mean, it's amazing to pass up on this opportunity. So I think it's a great deal. I mean, it's a great deal normally, but the extra 1,500 is insane. So that's very cool. Very cool.
Awesome.
Okay, well, since we're going to do the Q&A on Thursday, I'll end it there and just urge you guys to jump in and become part of our community and family. You'll learn so much. And again, like, I just want to go on and on. But anything else, Jen? Any housekeeping up?
I just want to answer Sandra's question that she had real quick, because I think it's a one that's on a lot of people's minds, and it's a quick and easy one. And then, of course, bring all of your other questions to the webinar on Thursday. But Sandra wants to know, how long is the course? And I think the great thing about the course is that it's self-paced, and you can basically start it at any point in time. So I've had this question come up a lot in the last week or so from people, because the holidays are coming and everybody's hesitant about, well, if I enroll now, I realistically can't start the course until after Christmas or after the new year. And that's totally fine. You guys can enroll now, take advantage of the discount, and then you can wait to start the course content itself after the first of the year. So you'll automatically get some welcome emails from us once you enroll about the course, but you can just put those to the side until you're ready to do it. And because it is self-paced, it usually on average takes our students anywhere from 3 to 5 months to complete the course, just depending on how much time you have to commit to studying. So I'd say that people that can commit about 3 hours a week to studying, they usually finish it around the 5-month mark. And then if you can commit a little bit more than that, then you can certainly get through it quicker. I know that my personal trainer, John Parker, he went through every single module twice, and he completed it in 2.5 months just because he committed to studying on Sundays. So you can go through it as fast or slow as you want to.
Too.
You did it in 2 too?
Yeah.
Nerds.
I know.
Nerds. Total nerds.
Athena is asking, can FDN be used in Canada? And yes, so Canada is one of our major, I would say, hubs for FDNs. So we have FDNs in over 50 countries and over 3,000 people that have gone through the training. And so we have lab partnerships across the world in the EU, in Australia. We ship labs to Canada, and we have mentors that are assigned to some of those specific areas too to support you guys. And then Athena just wants to know, what is the difference between the FDN and FDNP? I see some online credentials for the FDNP, and FDNP just means that they've graduated, Athena. That means that they're an FDN, they're officially an FDN practitioner. So that's what that stands for.
Yeah, some people just put FDN, like they have FDN training, but they've all graduated or not use, can't really use it. Well, fantastic, folks. I know you have more questions, but really have some faith too. Just like jump in there, be one of these first 10 and get an additional course, which is quite remarkable. And we'll see you on the other side.
Yeah, we'll see you guys on Thursday.
Thanks, Dr. Al.
Okay,
Thanks,
guys.
Jen. Thanks, Ben and Brendan. Really great to have you guys here and offer your sentiments. And we'll see you next time. See you on Thursday.
Thanks.
That's good.
Have a great one, everybody.
Bye.
Ciao.
Bye.